Hello there, this is going to be a review on the pay-per-view of WWE Backlash 2020 that was broadcast in this year of 2020, and I'm basically going to be doing a review on the whole pay-per-view itself, especially on the main event, which was Edge and Randy Orton, which was built by many people to be the greatest match of all time. And also I'll be giving my comments and reviews on other matches that were on the card itself. So I'm basically going to be doing a review on the pay-per-view of Backlash, and that's basically what we're doing. So please stay tuned and see my reviews on the video itself. So the first match of the pay-per-view was a women's triple threat tag team match for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Sasha and Bayley were defending their titles against both the Iconics and Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. It was very interesting to note that before they were making their entrance, they were asked a very interesting question, and that's, if they were to lose their championships, what effect would it have on their relationship with each other? My feeling was that I expected Sasha and Bayley to retain their championship, since I feel they have been on a good run as of late. The way the match was panned out was quite good. All the teams execute double moves on each other in great fashion. There was one part of the match I liked when Peyton did a crossbody to the outside of the ring to all the women's in the match. When it came towards the end of the match, Alexa Bliss hit the Twisted Bliss on Peyton Rouse, and out of nowhere, Sasha Banks comes over and immediately does a roll up on Alexa Bliss and gets the win. So Sasha Banks and Bayley are still in good harmony as the tag team champions. Overall, I thought this match was pretty good, and I think they should have more matches like this in women's division. So it wasn't too bad, it was okay, but there could have been some improvements overall in that match, but it was okay overall. The second match on the card was Jeff Hardy going one-on-one with Sheamus, and on a personal note, I really like the build-up they are doing for this feud with Sheamus talking about Jeff's personal stories with such negative vibes and about his career in the WWE. So this match was about Jeff getting his redemption over Sheamus after all the comments he'd been making about him week after week on SmackDown. The match started out with both opponents using grappling hold moves, with Sheamus bringing Jeff to the corner and giving him the trash talk. One painful moment of the match was when Sheamus picked up Jeff and landed him on the top turnbuckle very physically, which caused Jeff to lose his balance. He looked reasonably hurt at that moment in that match. At that point, Sheamus was in cruise control of the match and was doing the business on Jeff. However, Jeff managed to get one over on Sheamus by executing a set of moves on him, and the pace of the match was set evenly. At one point, Jeff threw Sheamus into the ring post and then hit him with a twist of fate and then a swanton bomb. Jeff then went for the cover on Sheamus, only for him to just have his leg on the second rope to break the count. Both opponents were then outside the ring, with Jeff climbing on the barricade to launch an arrow move on Sheamus, only for him to execute a bro kick to him. When coming into contact, then both opponents were back inside the ring, with Jeff still trying to recover from the bro kick. This provided Sheamus a great opportunity to finish off the match by delivering another one inside the ring. After that, Sheamus then went for the cover and successfully pinned Jeff and got the win. After the match, Sheamus happily celebrated his victory, and Jeff was left in the ring looking reasonably distraught. So who knows what else is next for him in this rivalry, because I'm not sure what is the next step for Jeff Hardy at the moment. But overall, I thought this match was reasonably okay, but not a great classic at all. There were some good spots in the match, but I'm just not going to call this a classic at all. So the third match on the card was Nia Jax facing Oksana for the Raw Women's Championship. I was expecting this match to be a decent one, as the build-up has been pretty good. It started out technically as both opponents executed a set of moves on each other. At one point, Asuka had Nia in the octopus lock, but only for Nia to have the move released by using her power to counter. Nia Jax was then in cruise control of the match. Then the match was set in even pace by both opponents delivering a set of moves on each other. At one point in the match, both opponents were outside of the ring. Asuka then hit an armbar on Nia Jax and then a kick to the face, but because they spent too much time outside of the ring, the referee counted both opponents out, and the match ended in the count out, and that technically meant Asuka is still the Raw Women's Champion. Asuka clearly didn't want to win the match via count out, as she hit an arrow move on Nia Jax after the match ended, and she picked up her title and went to the dressing room. Just honestly speaking, I thought the match was good at the beginning, but it started to become less interesting towards the end of the match. So I think it should have ended differently, like ending in a pinfall victory instead of a count out. Overall, this match was not living up to expectations much, so I don't think it was much impressive to me, to be honest. Just honestly talking. So yeah. So the fourth match on the card was the 2-on-1 handicap match for the Universal Championship. The Miz and John Morrison were going against the champion Braun Strowman. The build-up to the match has been somewhat okay in some respects, as they have Miz and Morrison doing these pranks to Braun Strowman in regards to the championship match at Backlash. So from my view, I was expecting this match to be somewhat of a cheesy vibe, which is Miz and Morrison in the mix. So I mean, you never know what these two will do. Before the match started, Miz and Morrison were in the ring basically to promote their music video they were doing for the company, which I actually thought was pretty impressive of them. Braun Strowman then came during the video being played, and then the match was officially in progress. I expected Morrison to be the most active man in the match due to his speed he possesses, which gives him an advantage in his matches. Braun Strowman looked to be in fair control of the match. Has facing two opponents in the match, didn't seem to bother him very much due to his power and size advantage. However, Miz and Morrison managed to gain their fun back into the match by delivering a huge kick to Strowman from the top rope. Miz delivering a missile dropkick from the outside of the ring to Strowman, and Morrison launching himself off the top rope to Strowman. One interesting part of the match was when Miz and Morrison executed a double team move on Strowman, and then Morrison went for the cover on Strowman only for Miz to break the fall. This made me think that Miz does not want Morrison to win the match, as to why he prevented Morrison from making the cover on Strowman. Then Miz was like, "Oh no, I just made a mistake right there." Then the Miz makes amends to his partner by bringing him back to the cover of Strowman again, only for Strowman to kick out. I knew at this point something was not right between those two. At that point in the match, Strowman hit a chokeslam on Miz. Then Morrison came off the top rope, only for Strowman to deliver a right hand to him. Then Strowman looked to regain momentum as he delivered a running power slam to Morrison, and then went for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Morrison is still your Universal Champion. My overall thoughts on this match was fairly okay, but could have been better in some terms of the amount of spots they were in the match. I mean, there were no objects used like tables or chairs, so it didn't have much flavour in it, if you understand what I'm saying. So I would say this match was pretty okay. So the fifth match on the card was a WWE Championship match. The champion Drew McIntyre was defending his WWE title against Bobby Lashley with the company of MVP as his manager. I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is between Lashley and MVP, as I haven't seen them doing anything substantial apart from MVP talking about Lashley's wife Lana and him trying to hype up Lashley like he's the biggest thing in WWE today. So I was expecting this match for Lashley to prove to people that he belongs in the main event and not just only competing for the US Intercontinental title. I do remember he was the ECW champion before, but that title was basically considered the same level as the US and Intercontinental title. So in my view, Lashley has never won the world title before. I viewed this match as a decent competition for Drew McIntyre, even though I do recall he has defended his title against Seth Rollins, which was at the previous pay-per-view Money in the Bank. Before the match started, all three men were in the ring, and MVP approached Drew McIntyre and started giving him the trash talk. Then out of nowhere, Bobby Lashley comes and applies the full Nelson on Drew McIntyre, and had applied on him for such a long time that the whole WWE referee team ran down to the ring to keep Lashley off Drew, as the match didn't even start officially. Another thing to comment on is that Samoa Joe seemed to be very enthusiastic about calling this match on commentary. As you can tell by what he was saying, he was ready to call this match on the line. However, I do prefer to see him in the ring competing for world titles, if you ask me. After Bobby Lashley let go of Drew, the referee asked Drew if he was able to go ahead with the match, and as you knew, Drew was going to say yes, and then the match was officially underway. Bobby Lashley seemed to be in cruise control of the beginning of the match, as he was going to work on an already damaged Drew McIntyre, which gave Bobby Lashley a huge advantage in the match. Lashley went on for a few covers on Drew, only for him to kick out of the falls. Then Lashley was just in full control of the match at this point. Both men were outside of the ring, and Drew brought Lashley into the barricade, and there was a stare down between him and MVP for a brief moment, and then Lashley picked up Drew on his shoulders, and I think he must have been attempting a fireman's carry, only for him to drop Drew to the ground right next to MVP. So I think that was a botch there from him. He re-attempted it again and brought Drew right into the LCD post with approval from MVP, and then Drew was at the other end of the outside of the ring, and Bobby Lashley charged up to him, only for him to counter and bring Lashley right to the edge of the barricade, and then he went on to deliver a suplex to Lashley onto the outside of the ring. Then both men were back in the ring exchanging chops to each other, setting the tone of the match. Lashley went on to execute a few heavy moves on Drew, like a chokeslam-like move, and went on to for a few covers only for Drew to kick out. At this point, Lashley was in control of the match and then executed the ankle lock on Drew McIntyre to apply more damage to him. Drew managed to eventually break the hold, then Lashley attempted a spear on Drew only for him to counter into a Kimura lock. Lashley managed to break the hold by getting his hand on the bottom rope. Drew then managed to bring Lashley up to the top rope to apply an effective superplex, and Drew went for a cover, and at that point both men were down on mat, exhausted and banged up. Drew managed to bring himself up and counted down to deliver a claymore to Lashley. However, Lashley countered it into a spear and went for a cover, in which to the surprise of his manager MVP, Drew managed to kick out of a near fall. At this moment in the match, Lana arrived down to the ring and walked onto the ring apron, and she's saying to the referee, he cheated. I'm not sure whether she's referring to Lashley or Drew, but then Drew pushes Lashley near to Lana, almost colliding with her, but then Drew hits Lashley with a headbutt for him to collide with Lana, who falls from the ring apron to the floor near MVP, and this happened to be a turning point in the match, as Drew applied the Claymore to Lashley and then went for the cover. 1, 2, 3, Drew McIntyre gets the win and is still your WWE champion. After the match ended, Lashley and Drew was then celebrating his victory in the rings by saluting to the fans at home. My overall thoughts on this match was pretty good, as it was good from finish to end, and I may say this match was the best match I've seen so far in this pay-per-view. So this match was pretty good overall, and yeah. Right, so this is the final match of the card, and this was billed by WWE to be the greatest wrestling match of all time. The match I'm talking about is Edge versus Randy Orton. The same match I saw in WrestleMania 36 2 months ago, which I thought was okay, but not the best I've seen ever, in all honesty. So I had the assumption that if they are bidding this match as the greatest match ever in the company, then they are going to have to improve what they have done in the last match they had together. The build-up for this match was, in all honesty, not very compelling from my view. I didn't feel like I was going to be watching the greatest match ever in wrestling, but maybe the greatest match in the calendar year, most likely to say. However, I am the fan of both competitors in this match, and I was hoping they would at least put on a very good performance to end the pay-per-view. Remember, this was only Edge's second single match since returning to WWE after 9-year hiatus from his injury, and Orton has been in WWE consistently, so I was expecting Orton to be the one doing the most of the business in the ring, even though the last match these two had with each other, Edge was victorious. So as both men came down to the ring, there was a microphone attached lying above the ring with the letters MSG for Madison Square Garden written on the base of the microphone, and with Howard Finkel's voice making the announcement for both Edge and Randy Orton as a grand way to present the match to the audience. Charles Robinson was officiating the match and laid the law to both competitors in the ring. With that being said, the match was officially underway. The match was starting very smoothly as both competitors were executing lock holds to set the tone and pace of the match. Orton applied the submission to target Edge's surgery repaired neck in order to gain an advantage in the match. At another point in the match, Edge was coming towards Orton, in which he managed to make Edge lose his balance to end up being on the outside of the ring. Then another point in the match was when both men kept entering and coming out of the ring, only for Edge to deliver a big boot to Orton. Both men were back in the ring and Edge went for a cover on Orton, only for him to kick out effectively. Edge then had Orton in what looked like to be a modified armbar maneuver to inflict damage on the shoulder. Orton managed to effectively release himself from the hold and picked up Edge to execute a heavy move on him, only for Edge to counter the move. So at this current point in the match, Tom was set in the slow mood and both men were applying lock holds on each other for some duration. Then Orton was standing on the outside of the ring apron in position for Edge to execute a flying clothesline from the top rope onto him. And at this point, both men were down on the arena floor, and then Orton appeared to be busted open, which presumably came from the damage done by the headbutt from Edge. Orton was literally in a bloody mess, and he did, however, to manage to get himself into the ring, but Edge managed to get hold of Orton's arm to apply a move to the hardest part of the ring to Orton's arm to inflict more damage. Then both men were back into the ring, and Edge was the man in control of the match as he hit a couple of moves on Orton to set up a crossface submission on him. However, Orton was able to get his foot on the bottom rope to break out of the crossface, but there must have been some damage already done to already busted open Orton. Both men were up and Orton instantly attempted the RKO on Edge, but he managed to avoid the move. Edge then applied the newly used move of his own on Orton called the Edge event, which basically is a submission hold around the neck of Orton or an opponent. Orton then managed to release himself from the submission hold and he ended up lying on the ring ropes. Edge then delivered a few Edge chops to the chest of Orton. When Orton got himself in the right position, he executed a modified backbreaker on Edge. So at this point, both men were on the outside of the ring. Then Orton threw Edge all around the arena to the edge of the ring, to the plastic fencing, to the edge of the announce table, and to the steel steps. So Orton then hits a heavy move on Edge on the stable announce table, didn't break at all, and Orton then sent Edge back into the ring and went for cover, but Edge managed to kick out at 2. At this point in the match, Orton was back in control of the match. Orton then decided to take a page out of the legend Eddie Guerrero by executing the 3 Amigos on Edge, only for him to halt at the third suplex and to reverse the move successfully on Orton. Both men were down on the mat and managed to get themselves up and started exchanging Ric Flair-like chops to each other. Then both men were outside of the ring and Orton jerked Edge's neck into the metal connector of the steel ring post. Then both men were back in the ring and Orton managed to successfully execute a heavy superplex from the top rope on Edge, Orton then proceeded to go for the cover on Edge, only for him to kick out at a near fall. Edge then attempted a crossbody on Orton, which ended up being a heavy collision between him and Orton, and both men were down on the ground. Both men managed to get back up on their feet before the count of 10. Both men were up, and Orton applied a section of moves on Edge near the corner of the ring, but Edge managed to counter it and hit an education on Orton. Edge was struggling to get Orton on his back in order to make a cover, and proceed to make a cover in which Orton kicked out at a near fall of 2. Both men were back up, and Edge went for a rising knee strike to Orton. Now Edge was the man who controlled the match, but proceeded to hit Orton with a diving crossbody from the top rope and went for a cover only for Orton to kick out. So, each man executed a set of moves, including Olympic slam from Orton to Edge in respect to Legend Kurt Angle. Edge managed to kick out of the fall from Orton afterwards. Edge then approached Orton only for him to dump Edge onto the outside of the ring. When Edge managed to get himself up, he found himself in the grasp of Orton for him to hit the DDT off the second rope on him. Orton was then pouncing on the mat to set up an RKO on Edge, with him countering the move for Edge to hit an Edge-o-matic on Orton. Edge then proceeded to go for the cover only for Orton to kick out. Edge attempted a spear on Orton, but Orton countered. Then Orton attempted an RKO on Edge only for Edge to counter the move. However, Edge managed to get the upper hand and deliver his closest friend's moves, the unprettier. Edge then proceeded to go for the cover on Orton, but Orton kicked out with a near fall. So both men managed to get back up on their feet. Orton then had the grasp of Edge to hit his former Evolution leader Triple H's move on him, but that came to no effect at all, as Edge managed to kick out of the pinfall cover with Orton looking astonished about it. Like he was like, how the hell am I going to defeat this guy? So, when both men were back up on their feet, Edge decided to use the move of The Rock by using the Rock Bottom on Orton. However, that came to no avail, as Orton managed to kick out of the pinfall. Both men were back on their feet and continued dishing out at each other. And out of nowhere, Orton proceeds to hit an RKO on Edge. Then he went for the cover to end the match, but Edge just managed to kick out too. Orton then positioned himself to the corner to the ring and presumably executed a punt kick to Edge. However, Edge managed to counter it into a spear. Then Edge waited for Orton to get back up to deliver another spear. Then he went for the cover. Then Orton managed to kick out of the pool. When both men got back up to their feet, Orton brought Edge to the turnbuckle. Then Edge climbed up to the top rope to hit an aerial move on Orton. But he managed to deliver an third RKO mid-air to Edge. Orton then went for a cover on Orton, but Edge surprisingly kicked out too. Both men got back up to their feet, and Edge had Orton in a hold around his neck. Then Orton hit Edge low to counter the move, and at that moment he may have actually done a low blow on Orton, but the referee made no comment, and Orton was in a great position to end the match by executing a devastating punt on Edge. Orton then went for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Randy Orton wins the match. After the match ended, Orton then celebrated his victory and said if he was the Edge. So, from my view, he may have been given respect to Edge for the effort he just put into the friendly match he had just had with him. When the medical team came to help Edge, he refused medical attention, and that shows you the guts he has in his career. So I was going to say, this final match was on for like nearly an hour. It was much longer than the previous match at WrestleMania 36. I have to say the crowd atmosphere at the Performance Center was very enthusiastic, and it felt like they sounded the same as a 15,000 capacity arena crowd. They were even chanting, "This is awesome." So you do know they really enjoyed what they were seeing. They were seeing a classic performance from two great superstars in WWE. Randy Orton, soon to be Hall of Famer, and the Hall of Famer himself, Edge. So would I call this the greatest wrestling match of all time? If you ask me that question, I would say no. I would say it is probably the greatest wrestling match of 2020, and I don't think there will be another better wrestling match that I will see this year other than this. I think this is probably the best match I've seen this year. That's what I would say myself. So that's basically my thoughts on this particular match here, which I saw, which I thought was a very good match, but not the greatest wrestling match of all time, to be in all honesty. I thought it was the greatest match of probably of the calendar year. That's what I would say myself.